Armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John.
And I'm Jack.
Jack, you really have a way of picking films.
I do, don't I?
Yeah, last week we did South Park, and then this week we're going to Rwanda for genocide.
Couldn't let you get too comfortable.
Okay, what possessed you to want to do this film at this current juncture?
Well, it's a movie that's been on my list for a long time now. And it's a war movie.
Yes, it is. I would argue it's more of a war movie than South Park was.
Yeah. The main characters, it's worth noting, are not soldiers. Not everybody in war is a soldier.
No, they are not. Had you seen this film before?
Nope.
Oh, so this is... You're just like, I haven't seen this movie.
Yeah, it's a good excuse, if ever there was one, to look this up.
No, that's fair. Had you heard anything like about it as far as like quality or reviews or anything like that?
Just the plot.
You just knew Don Cheadle and genocide and you were sold?
Yep. Seemed like a really interesting topic. Difficult, yes.
So what was your initial impression of the film?
I was like, well, because I remember watching a bit on this in our politics class back in college. And in the beginning of the movie, it's like, oh, they're meeting for a peace treaty. The Civil War will be over. I'm like, well, I guess that's the movie then. So long, folks. Then the president's assassinated and a complete motherfucking disaster happens.
So what I'm understanding you say is this entire time. So there's a story that we've told multiple times on this podcast, but the Spark Note edition of it is me and Jack took a world politics class together in college once, and we did like a role-playing game with fake made-up countries, and there was one subgroup called Hoodoo Pharmia.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me that when we started yelling, they took our hoodoos?
No. You see, these hoodoos are different. These hoodoos in the movie are Hutus. Our hoodoos were Hoodoos.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the point.
Not the same group. Different entirely.
Okay.
And also, it's worth mentioning that the other minority group were farmers. There's no such thing as farmers.
Yes, the made-up group known as farmers. There's 0 of those in the world.
Not a single one of them.
So, did you guys talk to So the first time I saw this movie was 7th grade. Like it was a movie that was shown in class.
Really?
Yeah, pretty hardcore film for 7th grade. But also, my history teacher was like, "Let's watch We Were Soldiers and Saving Private Ryan." And Schindler's List. So, the grand scheme of things was kind of on par.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing as this was your first watch through, did you discuss like the Rwandan genocide when you were in school?
Possibly. I don't remember reviewing it in high school. I do remember talking more about it in college.
I would guess you probably didn't, because you know, this film so eloquently put it, but it unfortunately is a true thing, which is, there's a line in this film with much more colorful language, but essentially what it equals is that the Western world doesn't give a shit about Africa. So
Mm-hmm.
I would honestly be surprised if a high school in South Dakota would cover something like this.
And that's not to say they didn't. I just don't remember it.
I remember, so I was watching this movie. Miranda's like, "Oh, what movie is this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Hotel Rwanda." And she's like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "What do
It's a
you?"
zany comedy about a man trying to run a hospital in Rwanda
So
or a
yeah, I mean,
hotel.
I I really kind of wanted to be a little indignant, but I feel like it's more common than not that this is not a known thing.
The genocide or the movie?
Both, but
No.
I would say it's more it's more unfortunate that people don't know about the genocide aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a genocide that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Well, I feel like a lot of genocides don't get talked about a lot, or I think probably one of the most poignant lines in this entire movie came from Joaquin Phoenix, which also, what the fuck? Joaquin Phoenix is in this?
Yeah, as a photographer. Nick Nolte was in it too.
Okay. So, when the fuck did this movie come out?
2004.
That's really weird because Gladiator came out in 2000. So you're telling me that, his major film role as fucking Commodus in Gladiator happens, and then he's this, kind of 2-bit part in not that popular of a film? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of weird for me. But anyways, one of the most poignant lines in this film comes from Joaquin Phoenix, and he says, he goes out and he films the atrocities that are happening out in the streets and whatnot, and we see a little bit of the video clip that he's shot, and it's showing a very brutal, machete attack, and um he says basically, we'll talking to one of the other characters, he's like, nobody cares, we'll show this on the news, it'll be everybody will look up from their dinner and say how terrible, and then they'll just go back to eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a that the entire film is a fucking downer, as a genocide film ought to be, but I think this film is a terrific commentary just on the human nature of oh well, it's happening to those people over there, so what do I care?
And that's just the sad reality of it all. Just people see tragedies and just, oh well, at least it's not me. It's real sad, but it's nature, I guess.
So what was your favorite part?
I like the scene of him tricking the general. And it's like, oh, the Americans are spying on us with satellites. He's like, satellites. And he kind of gets him to bully that piece of shit worker that's been slacking.
What's his name? Yeah, gotta find it, because that guy was a real piece of shit.
George. No, Gregoire.
Gregoire, yeah. Fuck that dude.
Yeah. Fucking asshole.
He starts out the film pre-genocide. He's already just a piece of shit worker who doesn't respect his boss or anything and doesn't want to do any work. Then the genocide happens, and he's like, I'm going to live it up in this fucking 5-star hotel.
Mm-hmm. Taking it for his own. What a dick.
And, like, I know this is a thing that's said a lot throughout the film. Like, the derogatory term that the Hutus use for the Tutsis is they keep calling them cockroaches. Which, like, also, excellent point in this film to, highlight the dehumanization aspect that goes into, like, genocides. But for some reason, like, when Gregoire says cockroach, like, there's so much more, like, venom behind it as opposed to when other people say it, which just like adds another layer to fucking hating that character.
Yeah, man. Sorry, cough. There's another character that wasn't happy with their portrayal in this movie that I'm just now reading about. The point of Nick Nolte's character, the Canadian colonel, is based on a senator. The hell's Romeo Dallaire? Okay, whatever. And he was in charge of. He was the force commander of the UN brigade that defended the hotel. And he's kind of depicted as useless and honestly kind of racist.
I mean,
But
he does say the N word with the hard R.
oh yes, and he criticized the movie for portraying him as such when in reality I guess he did a lot more for the hotel and was with them for longer.
I think
In
that's kind
fact,
of a reoccurring theme with this, but continue.
he wrote his own book, which eventually became its own movie a couple of years after this.
Maybe we should watch that movie, do a compare and contrast.
Yeah, put it reel to reel, as the History Channel would call it. But it's called Shake Hands with the Devil.
Now I'm going to have to get that book. I was reading a couple of other articles because apparently in the years that followed Rusabanga's, and I'm probably saying his name wrong, but Don Cheadle's character, he wrote a book after the fact. Obviously, it became this movie, and there are quite a few people who were refugees at the hotel who came out after the fact, kind of like saying, yeah, like he wasn't like this great hero that he was being made out to be. And I find it interesting because there's even a scene that shows this or addresses it. Because there's some people who were refugees who were like, oh yeah, he was fucking handing out billing statements to us for being at the hotel. But like that's something we see in the movie too, where he's like, oh well, if I treat them as guests, then like the corporation has to fucking, like the grand overarching corporation that owns the hotel will have to go out of their way to treat them as such, or like do the right thing basically. Which I don't know to what extent that's true or if that was the case. Like, I'm curious where the disconnect is because it's not like Rusabango is like denying that bills were handed out. It's just
Context.
yeah. Is the Rusabanga point of view the correct one where he's like, I was doing this just to create a paper trail as a way to legitimize them and to get them resources, or is it from the people who were there who are like, who the fuck is this dick taking advantage of us? And I don't know nearly enough about this subject to have an opinion either way.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that it wasn't so much a give me money or you'll find yourself out on the street. It was more like, listen, so if you, whatever you money you can give, we need it because we still need to buy food and shit. Like it was more of pragmaticism more than greed, seems to be. It's also worth noting that unlike the movie, he actually did give up the names of some of the more prominent Tutsi guests. But in real life, can you really blame him? Because people with guns were demanding the list, and him and everyone else would have been killed if he would have been obstinate about that. And yes, he did give up the list, but he also changed the room numbers and assignments of some of the more prominent ones.
I think something to keep in mind is maybe like the like Schindler's List approach or view of it, which is Oscar Schindler was not able to save every single person that he wanted to or would have liked to,
Mm-hmm.
but he did the most that he could.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the most that he could still means that people were going to die. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a hard reality to really get behind in those kinds of situations, especially when you're talking, life and death survival. But then again, I don't really know of anybody who talks shit about Oscar Schindler,
Exactly.
so I like I said, I don't know nearly enough about this incident to really formulate an opinion either way. I still think that what he did was brave and that what he did was a good thing because there are people who are still alive today because of his actions. It's just, just like with anything in Hollywood, it's a matter of how dramatized or how sugar coated is it to make
Mm-hmm.
him look good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the character of Odette was a real person who apparently became a senator in the new government after all that went down.
Really?
And ever since then, she's been campaigning for him and like championing him, saying, I never saw him threaten to expel people from the hotel if they didn't pay up. Never. But who knows?
He got like his life has had like another like tragic turn to it because like in 2020 like right pre-COVID he so like after all this happens he becomes like a Belgian citizen and I think he also got citizenship in the US. He owns a property in Texas, but he became a big public speaker and whatnot, and you mentioned people started like advocating for him and whatnot. He also basically started a political party that kind of exists outside the country trying to do reform things. And like right before COVID happened, he got on a plane under the assumption that he was going to go to some event. And then the plane like changed directions and it went to fucking Rwanda and like they yanked him off the airplane and arrested him and he spent a couple of years in prison there.
Mm-hmm.
So
But they're working on getting him back somehow.
I can't remember. I want to say he did get released by now.
In 2023, after serving 2 years in Magaragere prison, Rusesabagina's sentence was commuted by the Rwandan president.
Hmm.
That's what happens when you campaign against an unpopular regime in your home country.
Pres- President Bush awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, I also got a bunch of other ones too, but I can't remember what they were.
What was your least favorite scene in this film?
Hmm. When they were first showing, like when Joaquin Phoenix's character and his buddy get back, and they're being chewed out by their supervisor boss guy, like, where the hell were you, and blah blah blah. And then he like, without saying a word, pops the VHS in and shows them footage that he's taken, and it's people very clearly fake hitting other people with machetes and whatnot. It's like painfully obviously fake, but they're acting like they're seeing something completely shocking. However, I did like the line that was like, where did you go to film this? And they're like, half a mile up the road. Like, this is happening outside right now. Shit is going down.
I think for me, the scene that I disliked was the first time that they go to the like supply person. Like, I don't know what this person's actual function in this movie is, because you would think that there would be other avenues of supplying the hotel with stuff, but like this is a connection that Rusabinga has like pre-genocide, and is like, oh, I go there and I get my Cuban cigars and all the lobster and shit for the hotel. And as he's doing like his our introduction to this dude, who later we find out is a part of the genocide, is one of the key players. Like he's picking up this shit for the hotel, and like there's this forklift driver who obviously did not complete his forklift certified course.
Yeah,
And
bitch.
fucking drops a crate and it busts open, and there's all these fucking machetes, and you can tell that they're just literally just scraps of metal, like not actual. Like the movie did not have the budget to buy real machetes. Like they just got fucking strips of metal. But also, it's like, we know you know why you're here for this movie. It's about the genocide. So let's just go ahead and do this super over the top, heavy handed foreshadowing of a goddamn crate of machetes before, things go downhill.
Oh, but they bought them on discount, 10 cents each.
Yeah, they're fucking Timu machetes.
Wish.com.
You ever bought anything off of Timu?
No, don't really plan to, nor Wish neither.
I saw this guy on YouTube do a video where he's like, I bought a bunch of Timu bulletproof vests, and shockingly, like 2/3 of them actually worked.
Wow.
Not saying that's a real great success rate,
But more than you expected.
Oh yeah, I didn't expect any of them to work.
Me neither, honestly. Me neither.
What I do find, or continue.
No, I was just sneezing.
Oh, you mentioned earlier that like Nick Nolte's character, was pissed off because he was shown as being ineffectual. But like, when's the last time you've actually heard of the UN actually being effective somewhere?
They're more effective than people give them credit for. Especially when you look at the
I haven't seen or really heard of it, and maybe that's just me existing in American propaganda. So like, what you expound on the goodness of the UN, because I would like to believe they're effective.
I'm not going to sit here and lie and say they're the most effective thing in the world, but studies have shown countries that do have their presence after a major conflict are less likely to engage in future conflicts, and life expectancy and health go up in countries they provide aid to. But for this, they completely dropped the ball, I say let the guns fire.
Maybe it was just a time period thing, because this is roughly around, well, when the fuck was Black Hawk Down? 93? And this was, holy shit, Rwanda Genocide Museum.
Depressing ass museum.
And this happened, okay, these were like back to back, because this happened in 94. Um, should that be the next guy's trip? Is trip to Rwanda?
Be a dark trip, but yeah.
I that's outside the budget. Um, so really, the only real media that I have seen the UN in is three things. One would be this film, Hotel Rwanda. Two would be Black Hawk Down. So both are African continent conflicts during the 90s. And as we see in this film, it's really a result of, Africa was heavily colonized by European Western powers. And then when colonization came to an end, it really left a power vacuum, which resulted in the genocide in Rwanda because you had an ethnic group who was upset about how they were treated for the past several decades, really going off the deep end. And then, like in Somalia, you have the power vacuum filled with warlords and stuff who are fighting over, supplies given by the United Nations. Um, so lots of bad things happening in Africa during this time period. Um, and in both of those films and books and whatnot, and maybe it's just a case study of the UN not being super effective in Africa during this decade, but they're both really shown as being ineffective. The third instance that I've seen the UN in media would be the TV series MASH, and that's because the Korean conflict was a United Nations effort, and that's not really the same thing. But
I mean, it was a success in that South Korea didn't get overrun like they were like it was looking like they would.
yeah, true. But what I mean is that like that is different because that is very specifically like the UN went in with the understanding that it's an armed conflict versus a quote unquote like peacekeeping mission that was, Somalia and Rwanda and what.
Yeah. Yeah, the UN isn't perfect. It could definitely be better, but problem is ask 10 people what they could improve and they'll each give you a different response.
Yeah, and that's all based on what they want out of it. It just reminded me of do you remember Idiocracy?
Is that a war movie?
Maybe. I
Fuck,
love how during Idiocracy they're talking about the UN, but they call it the UN.
the un.
The unnotified the world.
the I like the part where they're watching the movie Ass in theaters. They're just losing their shit over just asses on screen.
A common theme in this movie was Rusabahina bribing people. As, similar plot line to like Schindler's List. And in terrible places and terrible circumstances, ultimately, like people staying alive comes down to, whether or not somebody benefits something. I try doing my normal thing because you know how I like going on my little autism money equation trips.
Yeah?
Well, because they kept talking about, he brought up like, well, what is more worthwhile, me giving a guy 10,000 francs or a Cuban cigar? And basically, he uses them as an equivalence. And I was like,
it's about style.
yeah. I was like, well, how much is 10,000 Rwandan francs? Because at one point, Don Cheadle is like, I will give you 100,000 francs for all these people. And I know that Africa's economy, not the same as other countries, so that number is a bit inflated, but I was like, what does that actually equate to? And it was a bit more difficult than I was expecting, trying to figure out. So if we were just, I don't have the metric or the calculation for, you know, what 10,000 Rwandan francs was worth in 1994.
I think I might be able to help with that.
But essentially, the way I did my calculation was, okay, what was the average cost of a Cuban cigar in 1994?
And remember, they're not getting American smuggling prices.
Right. So the internet told me that the average Cuban cigar in 1994 was like $25, non-smuggle price. So if $25 is 10,000 francs, then that would mean for like an entire group of people, he was bribing this dude with like 200 US dollars.
Hey, man, that's mad money over
I
there.
No, I get that, but also it's like, really?
Man. And yeah, while you were speaking, I looked up an inflation calculator and an exchange rate. 10,000 Rwandan francs equals $7.05 today. And in April 1994, $7.05 was the same buying power. Oh, excuse me. Same buying power as $15.34.
Holy shit.
So I guess, yeah, that's the price of a life to them.
The price of a human being is 15 US dollars.
Yeah. It's kind of harsh when you put a number to it, isn't it?
Yeah, really puts things into perspective.
I've never hated anyone enough to want to kill them, much less kill them but change my mind for $15.
Anyways, no, I have not thought of that way. I was going to say there's been singular individuals that I wouldn't piss on if they were on fire,
But wouldn't kill.
to coldly calculate them down to that, no.
And like, if you were mad enough to kill them, I don't think $15 is going to change your mind if you were truly mad enough.
No, but a bottle of whiskey might change that.
Which they drink a lot in this movie, especially that general that he's buddies with.
Speaking of which, what are you drinking tonight?
Nothing too fancy. I am drinking Bush Latte, but I'm also having dinner while we do this. And tonight's dinner is from the Ethiopian restaurant in Sioux Falls, Lalabella's. It's beef tibs, one of my favorite meals to get while I'm in Sioux Falls.
You're currently in Sioux Falls?
No, but I was in Sioux Falls over the weekend.
So you brought this delicacy back with you?
Yes. I love it.
What does Ethiopian cuisine consist of? I'm genuinely curious. I've never had it.
See, they make this spongy, soft bread called injera. And what beef tibs is, it's beef and vegetables cooked and wrapped in injera bread. And you take pieces of the bread and pick up the meat and vegetables to eat. Very, very good.
Sounds pretty legit. Is the bread kind of like naan?
No, it's softer than naan. It's almost like a tortilla, but not. Hard to explain.
The only like African cuisine I've had was, oddly enough, when I was living in Iowa, there was a local place that served Algerian food.
Ooh.
But I should really look closer in my local area because I'm for sure there is some African cuisine places here.
I believe Jackson and I hit one up when we were visiting you guys all those years ago. Good
Do you
stuff.
remember? Do you remember what it was?
Ethiopian.
Well, this evening I am drinking rum and coke from the finest Captain Morgan.
Ooh, look at you.
I know. I need to buy a bottle of Admiral Nelson.
Really?
Yes, in preparation for whenever we reschedule Master and Commander.
You know, just to be cheeky, I was going to propose that as this week's movie. But no, we should get that guy in.
Yeah. I keep just looking at my neck fat in the camera.
It's a nice beard, though.
Thank you.
Really growing out the dad stash, I see.
That's one way of calling it, yeah.
What'd you think I was going to call it?
Everybody else has been calling it much meaner things.
Oh, really? Such as?
I don't want to go there.
Huh? What do you mean you don't want to go there, porn star?
Yeah.
You gonna ride dirty cowboy?
See, the problem is I had to shave for work, and I lost the guard that I usually use, which will bring my beard down to an acceptable level. So I was like, oh, I'll do it no guard. How bad could it be? And fucking bad is the answer, is how bad it could be. So I was like, okay, I have to leave the fucking mustache because I'm going to look like some prepubescent boy trying to grow his first mustache if I attack it. So my beard and my mustache were disproportionate.
I don't know. Given what you do, I'd say that mustache is fitting. For our
Paperwork?
viewers that don't know, he works as a porn star.
I was going to say
Works
I'm
with
a professional paperwork person, but
works professionally with just exclusively with men. So he's very progressive.
I believe in equality.
But yeah. Great movie. The friend I watched this with compared it to Schindler's List, as you did earlier. It was like African Schindler's List.
I was going to say this is like TNT Schindler's List. Like it's definitely lower budget.
I mean, yeah.
There's still great acting in this. And like this film was nominated for tons of awards. It just didn't really win any of them, which I think is kind of a crock of shit. Like I think it should have won something because this got it got nominated for best original screenplay. Don Cheadle got nominated for best actor for it. I forgot what the other one was, but like this film was definitely deserving of at least an Oscar. I'm thinking about it. Who did Don Cheadle lose this to? Oh, okay. So Don Cheadle lost Best Actor to Jamie Foxx because this was the same year that the movie Ray came out, the biopic about Ray Charles.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid movie. So
Let's see, Best Original Screenplay. What the fuck is it? Fun fact: The Incredibles won Best Sound Editing that year.
really,
Mm-hmm.
I remember The Incredibles.
It also won Best Animated Feature Film. What in the fuck? Hotel Rwanda lost Best Original Screenplay to Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind. I don't even know what the fuck movie that is.
I've heard of it before. It's
What?
about mental health.
Did
Shut up.
not get nominated for Hotel Rwanda or for Best Picture, but that went to $1 Million Baby that year. It's kind of a stacked year, honestly.
Yeah, it was very important. If you think it was stacked for movies, look up video games that came out in 2004.
Well, now you're challenging me.
I am.
No, but I genuinely thought that, um, like this game, or fuck, not this game. This movie, it had terrific performances. Like the drama was, it felt very real. Like it was very tense. Um, I think it brought up lots of good points. It was like, it's like you said, it would be easy to say that this is African Schindler's List, except it is absolutely its own film enough that, like, only critically thinking about the film where I'm trying to find things to talk about it, am I making that connection? I didn't watch this film and, like, as I'm watching it, I wasn't like, oh, this is just Schindler's List. Like, although there's similar stories, like, this film does a good enough job of being its own film.
Yeah. And a bit of good news that I researched while you were talking. That radio host that was stirring the pot died in prison back in 2010.
Fucking good.
Yeah, no, nothing of value was lost. He died from illness in Benin, where he was serving his sentence for crimes against humanity, genocide, and a bunch of other pleasant things.
I would say that radio host was not worth $15.
Oh no, even less than that. Shit.
That was such another interesting aspect to this film because, like, the characters in this film are so heavily dependent on listening to the radio to know what is going on outside the walls of the hotel. But it's such a double-edged sword because it's obviously a propaganda news station. So it's like the characters are actively trying to parse out, like, what they can and cannot believe from this, and even though it's like their only news source, and like before things go really downhill, the only other news source they have is like radio BBC. And I think that was one of the other really hard-hitting moments in this film, is hearing the people on BBC talk about, like, oh yes, there are confirmed instances of genocide, and like they're arguing over, like, well, how many instances of genocide constitute a real genocide, and we want to make sure that we're not using too extreme of language here and overclassify it. We don't want to give people the wrong impression as fucking millions of people are getting hacked to death in the streets.
Yeah. Arguing over pedantics when, hey, asshole, people are dying.
Yeah, what do you think is going to look worse retroactively? Whether you over like you oversold something, or the fact that you were arguing over language while people were fucking dying.
Yeah. It's an argument that certainly hasn't aged a day.
Not one bit. I don't see any current applicability to it. I think, you know.
Yeah, they mention this in the movie, but can you name for me the major differences physically between Hutus and Tutsis?
If I recall correctly, it was like, isn't it just like isn't what the film says is like just like the shape of the nose or something?
No. They say it's the shape of the nose and that Tutsis are slightly taller and with lighter skin, but that's mostly bullshit.
Like, isn't it in reality like there's basically no difference to them? They're just,
yeah, that's the truth, because the character that was being told to turned around to those two women at the bar and was like, "Excuse me, are you Hutu or Tutsi?" and one of them says hoodoo, like it's the most obvious thing in the world, and the other, her buddy, says Tootsie. And then he like turns back around. I was like, they could be twins.
I
And
mean, I really appreciated that scene because I don't know. I generally don't like it when a film oversimplifies or like spoon feeds something to you. But that scene essentially boiled down colonialism in Africa to like three sentences. And I'm like, you know what? It's like we were talking about earlier. There's tons of people who have not heard of or don't know about the Rwandan genocide or really colonialism in Africa. And like, I'll be the first to say, I don't know that much about it. I know bullet points, I know spark notes, but like the three sentences that they talk about is literally, yeah, the European colonizers came up with these bullshit things and basically gave power to one ethnic group over another, and it causes problems today. And if that's not like the most succinct way of explaining most of the fucking problems in Africa, like I don't know what else would do it.
yeah, but as I was saying, the main crux of my point is how did they sniff out the Tutsis if there are no physical differences majorly between the two groups? That's my question for you.
Like, do I know the actual answer or what do I think the answer is?
What do you think the answer is?
I I don't know, probably the ones running for their lives.
Here, the main thing is that there are no physical differences, but how they sniff them out is deceptively simple. You see, the hoodoo postmaster knew all of the Tutsi people that he delivered mail to. The teacher knew all of her Tutsi students. The bartender at the local bar knew all the Tutsi regulars. So, and it's not like this was a spur of the moment thing. Like, we got too
No,
drunk at the.
there's definitely planning that went into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Case
Like,
in point, the fucking crate of Timu machetes, but
yeah, because they couldn't import guns into their country, so they just imported a bunch of machetes. Like, oh, they're agricultural tools that we certainly won't do evil with. But no, like, these people have been living together for decades. So they were even intermarrying and living with one another. So they knew each other. And it all just came to a head, spiraled out of control for a couple of months. 1 million dead with mostly just machetes too.
that is
That
like
that is
a horrific way to fucking die.
that is an incomprehensible just machine of murder. I think it
Like,
was
how
like
much pent up rage do you need to have inside of you to kill a person with a machete, let alone multiples?
the evil that a person would wreak on another person just for being different or being told they're different and therefore worse is just incomprehensible.
It also makes you think about like how many people participated in the hacking to death of other human beings and kind of just got to move on with their lives after the fact.
That's something I think about quite frequently too, because imagine how awkward it was in post-war Germany. The man that beat you in a work camp was now your neighbor, and the guy that held a gun to you at the beginning of it and forced your family into a ghetto, he's your kid's teachers now.
Yeah, because like war tribunals usually only go after the head
Big fish.
honchos, really.
It's yeah, and they mentioned this phenomenon in The Apt Pupil by Stephen King,
Oh, I
where
love that. I love that story.
he was like 10 years after the war, and the former Nazi guy was reminiscing about a memory he had after the war, where he was trapped in traffic and the car next to him was one of his prisoners that kept staring at him as if he recognized him. And that scene alone probably played out 100 or 1,000 times, where it was just that awkward post-war years where they're bumping into one another.
Reminds me, we should add Apt Pupil to our list.
Mm-hmm. I'm told the movie ain't much to write home about, though.
No, but I mean, it would make for good conversation nonetheless.
Put it on. Yeah, I'd be down. Never seen it before.
I mean, if any, like, Apt Pupil, the short story, fantastic piece of work.
I love both that story and the book it's from, different seasons. Definitely recommend.
Because different seasons also had Shawshank in it, right?
Yep, Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption. And remember, Shawshank Redemption was considered the most optimistic of all those stories. It also, one of the other stories is The Body, or as we know it from the movie Stand By Me.
I didn't think much of Andy Dufresne when I first saw him.
Andy Dufresne came to Shawshank Prison in June of 1945, or 49, I think. I don't know. But you want to put a rating on this? I hear you have a good one for it.
I do. It's such a downer film, but there was one moment that did make me laugh, and it's right as things are kicking off, things are going downhill. It's not full crisis mode, but things are getting really bad, and there's a group of hoodoos who show up and start harassing Rusubanga. And basically, he gets them to go away eventually. But there's one person in this group that's harassing him that for some reason, like, everybody's wearing, like, you know, like, part of the preparation is that, like, the groups that are going to be perpetrating the genocide have, like, this pseudo uniform. It's like a kind of like a traditional African colorful type shirt. So they're all wearing these things, and they're also wearing, like, stuff that they've ganged off of soldiers that I'm presuming they killed. But there's just one dude who caught my attention, and I just burst out laughing because he was so out of fucking place. And he's wearing a pink clown wig. And I was like, who in the costume department greenlit that? Like, it was so jarring for me. So, with as much of a downer as this film is, I was like, I'm glad there's one thing that had a little bit of levity to it. So yeah, that's what I want our metric to be, is 1 to 5 pink clown wigs.
Well, I think I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 pink clown wigs. This is a very moving film, a very important film, heavy subject matter, but my only criticism that I can think of is they should have gone more R-rated.
A little more.
Yeah.
More like Last King of Scotland, like gruesome.
Yeah. Schindler's List,
we need to add that to the fucking movie list too.
What, Schindler's List?
No, that's on the list already. I meant Last King of Scotland.
I thought it already was. I proposed it a while ago.
Was it?
I don't know. I just assumed it was.
I don't remember it being on our list.
Being as you listen to every word that slips past these lips. But
I do.
At any rate, I have seen that movie.
Oh my god. I watched this movie and Last King of Scotland back to back, 7th grade. You know how fucking down of a week that shit was?
Sounds depressing.
Because what was Last King of Scotland? Was that Uganda?
Yep, and
another 90s Africa is messed up movie.
And it was that fucking dickhead. What was his name?
Idi Amin.
Idi Amin, yeah, that complete fucking whack job.
Terrific acting by Forrest Whitaker, though.
Oh, absolutely. He was physically close to how Idi Amin was, like tall, physically imposing.
Also, one of the first appearances of James McAvoy.
Yep, as the doctor.
But I think this is a really good film. That being said, it's still kind of a low quality film as far as the shooting goes, cinematography and whatnot. It's very powerful. I think the fact that the acting in it is so good and the storytelling in it is so good is what propels this movie forward. But it still very much looks, like I said earlier, like a 90s TNT movie. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 4 clown wigs.
4 clown wigs. But let us see what the great Rotten Tomato in the sky has to say. God damn it. There we go. 91% on the tomometer and a 94% on popcorn meter.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with both of those assessments. I agree with both.
Man, you weren't kidding. 2004 was a great year for video games.
Yeah, right? San Andreas, baby.
San Andreas, Halo 2, fucking Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, I played that this weekend.
Have you seen there's been a push online from the gaming community for Battlefront 3 to be put into development?
Yeah, I've also been playing the new one on and off. I really hope we get a Battlefront 3, but, last Battlefront 3 I was waiting on. 21 years later and nothing.
Half-Life 2 came out in 04.
Yeah. Yeah. They just
World of Warcraft came out in 04.
make it stop.
Let's see. Oh, I'm going to keep making this worse for you. What else? Counter-Strike? Holy shit. Sid Meier's Pirates? What?
I played it a bit. It's pretty fun.
I never knew that Sid Meier made a pirate game. Holy, okay.
It's all right.
Let's wrap this up before I go any further down this rabbit hole. Jack, do you have anything else?
I do not, other than genocide is bad.
Yes, genocide is bad. Racial profiling of all sorts is bad.
Love your fellow man.
Love your fellow man. Don't fucking kill them with a machete because of colonialism. So yeah. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want additional content from us, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those good places. Until next time, I've been John.
And I'm Jack.
And we will see you all later.
Bye.